Oh, that's true. Although, I have to tell you that scary looking baby, I mean, it's a scary topic for sure, but one of the jokes we tell, and it's probably not very funny to most people, is that you can walk into any one of our sex offender groups, therapy groups, and not know you weren't in a Rotary meeting. If you just looked at the people there. I have a college president, a bank president, an Olympic athlete, I mean, you name it, I've got everybody you can imagine in treatment, and or have seen people from all walks of life through our evaluation component of our program. What else? Anything else about sex offenders? Men predominantly, although somewhere between 5 and 20% of the people that molest kids are women, girls and women, females. We don't talk about that very often. We will a little bit today, but certainly women can.
Sometimes I think when there's some seeking attention of kids, so if I see that, I have watched that.
She's saying sometimes she thinks about them as being people who are seeking attention from kids, both giving attention to kids, but seeking attention. There are a couple books in the field, and I'm going to pull some out, maybe pass them around later. One is a book called Predators, and it's a book about sex offenders. And if you're interested in this topic, I'd recommend you get that book and read it. And part of what it talks about is how offenders manipulate and kind of take advantage of both our strengths and our weaknesses, our faith in people, our trust in people, our willingness to kind of look for the good in people, and sometimes that works in offenders' interest. I mean, when they're trying to get away with stuff. Anything else about offenders?
Hard to cure.
Pardon?
Hard to cure.
Hard to cure. Yeah, we don't actually use that word. There is a bell curve with sex offenders. There are lower risk, less deviant, less criminal offenders. And there are, on the other end of the spectrum, very deviant, highly criminal people. And they come in all shapes and sizes. We see people who are 18, and in Oregon, the age of consent is 18. Washington, it's 16. But what that means in Oregon is that it's illegal for anybody under 18 to have sex. And if there's a 3-year age difference, even if it's kids, our jurisdictions will actually seek prosecution. And in this state, it's 16. So if you have a 16-year-old who has sex with a 13-year-old, that's a crime. And that 16-year-old can go to prison. In my state, we have frequently cases where we have 18, 19, 21-year-old kids who end up going to prison for 7 years because they've been having sex with younger teenagers. So, and that would be a different kind of offender than somebody who's what we would call a predatory pedophile for sure. But we're going to talk about kind of everybody along that bell curve because some of the higher risk people masquerade as lower risk people, and sometimes all the community will know about somebody is just a little bit of what they've done, and so they'll think they're safer than they are. And unfortunately, or fortunately, how we look at it, the Seventh-day Adventist Church in particular provides a lot of services to children and families. And because you do that, and you do that good work, you will attract more offenders. And I'm going to go through some studies that look at religious issues, because for a long time we haven't understood how that plays into some of what we see. You know, that's going to be right in front of the screen.
Stand over here, that work?
I'll try, but I'll probably have to pace it back and forth to talk to people. I'll try. So, and that'll probably, well, no. So we'll just deal with the mic. You guys will be probably okay. I'll shout. So we're going to start by watching a video clip at this point, and the video clip is an interview that's taking place with a suspect in a sex crimes case. And the suspect is a Methodist youth pastor, and he's been accused of molesting a child in his church, and the kid's name is Mikey. And he's being interviewed by a forensic psychologist. And what I want you to do as you watch this interview is try to figure out if he's guilty, if you think he did it, if you think he didn't do it, and we're going to talk about what it is that he does or says that makes you think that either he's innocent or guilty. Okay? And I'm going to warn you.
Will we find out the results?
Yes, we will talk about the truth. I wouldn't do that.
Thank you.
The thing I do want to warn you about, this particular case took place in Arkansas, and this guy has such a strong southern drawl. He sounds just like Bill Clinton, I swear. And sometimes people think that that makes him sound more guilty or less guilty. Try to keep an open mind, even though
This young minister has been accused of child sexual abuse. He's an outstanding member of the community, widely respected and well liked. He has no criminal record of any sort. Is he guilty? You decide.
I was a youth minister, an assistant minister. It was a rather small congregation for our community, around 200 to 300 people, at best 300. And I filled the needs of an assistant pastor, an associate minister, a deacon, and the highest being elder pastor, and working with the youth of the congregation. He was a kid at church, underprivileged. He came in with a group of other children, and I reached out and tried to help him, and no one else would. And just like the kids that normally are underprivileged, they try to take advantage of people who help them. Obviously, he has a lot of disturbances, mental problems. I think if you look in his records, he was even in a mental institution for 3 years before coming to church. Before being in the boys' home. He has a criminal record anyway. Yes, I think ministers are victimized by false reports. They have a very sensitive job. They are out there working with people constantly. They're alone, many times unsupervised. The only person with them, of course, would be the minister and the child, or the minister and the accusing victim, if you will. So who's to say that the minister didn't do it? Most 80% of the time, I would say, the victim is believed more than the minister. And it's because of all the heightened hoopla over victims and all that stuff. It's ridiculous. Ministers too much are victimized themselves for their kind deeds. People want to get money out of them if they're a little bit successful. Then their entire reputation is shot. They go back into the ministry, and they may say they trust them, but they're never totally trusted again. Their entire education, work, whatever they've gone through for years has gone down the drain, never to be fully restored, never to be fully recapacitated as what was before. It's a shame. It's extremely discouraging. I have spent 2 years in seminary. I'm the youngest deacon of the Methodist Church in the state. And it's absolutely, all of that prior effort and work, my entire life dream, the hopes of my parents, is now being questioned. I only hope God deals mercifully with them.
What's the truth? Was he falsely accused?
How's the sound? I've got a cold, my ears are so plugged up I can't hear very well. So is it okay? So if you guys were part of a jury, how many of you would vote that this guy's innocent? A couple? Okay, how many people would vote he's guilty? And obviously you won't go to prison based on your vote. So, okay. So what makes you lean one way or the other? What would make you think innocent or guilty at this point? Yeah.
I think when he instantly started attacking the kid, that's what's
a strange thing. Yeah. Although, and we're going to come back to this, I want you to kind of put yourself in the shoes of someone who might have been falsely accused. And you might do some things that wouldn't be very appropriate, or you might look back and be ashamed of. So, it's hard to know how somebody would act until
except for it wasn't specific. He attacked underprivileged kids.
Yes.
That's what bothered me.
Yeah. So we know about this kid's history in terms of, he spent, it sounds like, institutions, foster care, mental illness, delinquency. When you heard him describe the child, what went through your mind? Anything?
And he's getting taken advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. And we do have offenders who tell us that they target that kind of kid because they believe that that kind of kid's going to be easier to discredit. They're not going to come with a tight family unit that's going to protect them and defend them and all that kind of stuff. And they flat out say, that's an easy one to get away with.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It also seemed, and I don't necessarily know, but it seemed that he knew a lot of information about the child, like maybe he had done his homework before.
Maybe, did everybody hear that? Yeah.
Or he spent a lot of time with the kid.
Or he spent a lot of time with the kid.
Exactly, which could be an okay, good thing.
And on the flip side, anybody who works with kids, whether it's a teacher or a counselor or a youth pastor or whatever, we do end up knowing quite a bit of information about kids because we're invested in them and we're helping them and working with them. So, you might know a lot of information about a kid even if you weren't an offender. Hopefully. What else? What else made you think he was guilty?
He seemed to show no empathy